Hey guys, welcome to Digit.in, and today we're going to talk about audio technology, in particular Dolby Atmos. Now, Dolby Atmos has spread through so many theaters all over the country, and if you haven't experienced it, we strongly suggest you do, and then you can always let us know what you thought of that. But Dolby Atmos can not only be experienced in theaters around you, but you can actually experience it in your house, and that is the story for today. So before we go and take a look at how much you will spend on getting a system in your house that is Dolby Atmos enabled, here is a quick look and an understanding from Dolby themselves as to what is Atmos all about.
Yeah, so Dolby Atmos is our revolutionary sound technology in which sound just fills up the entire auditorium and moves all around you. And when I say that, what I mean is that sound today, or probably 20 years back, used to come from specific channels, specific directional of channels, which was 5.1 or 7.1, depending on how the mix of the movie was, for example. But now today the sound designer and the director has the flexibility to use the sound as objects. He or she can place the sounds wherever he wants in the auditorium. It's not restricted or from a particular channel of sound. It's completely object oriented in that sense, which gives a lot of flexibility to the sound designer to place the sound and use it much more naturally. If the movie has sequences which are like a helicopter scene or some action sequence, you'll actually feel the helicopter right on top of your head. If it's a jungle scene and there are some sparrows on the right and the pigeons and whatever, some birds and animals moving around, you will feel that you are in a jungle, because that's what the realism of sound comes out in with a tool like Dolby Atmos. Yeah, so speakers till now, were on the right or the left or the back, never on the roof. That's the new dimension which has been added to with Dolby Atmos. What it does give you kind of a 360 envelope of sound, which gives you a much more realistic and immersive audio.
So if there's a movie that wasn't built with Dolby Atmos in mind, and if you went to watch it in a Dolby Atmos theater, was the experience still different, or does the film have to actually be made for Dolby Atmos?
Yeah, so it's two things. So first of all, if the film is being mixed in Dolby Atmos, and if the theater is not Dolby Atmos from that perspective, it will still play. It will still play in 5.1 or 7.1, whatever that theater is equipped with. So you have to mix the movie just once. It's not that you have to mix it twice or thrice depending on the configuration of the theater. It's just one-time mix. So that's the good part of the technology. But the best is, of course, when the film is mixed in Atmos and also plays in an Atmos theater, you get the best experience.
Okay. Now moving away from the theaters, Dolby Atmos, there's a lot of talk about Dolby Atmos amplifiers that are now available in the market, the ability to buy speakers and set it up in your house. So can you talk a little bit about how Dolby Atmos went from the theater to the house? What was that transitional experience of bringing this technology from a big room?
So that's always been our endeavor. If you look at Dolby surround sound, the Dolby standard 5.1, it started of course in cinema theaters and then moved gradually to the homes, in broadcast television, in television channels, and now of course in mobiles, and it's become kind of generic for good quality audio. The same is what I would say is kind of happening with Atmos. We launched Atmos in cinema 5 years back. Very rapidly it came to home. And now when I talk of home, there are two ways to get that experience in the home. One, you can have speakers where you can have different configurations depending on the size of the room and the speakers you have. It could be a 5.1.2, and depending on how many speakers you can put up on the roof. That's one way to get it. The other is that there are also speakers which are now available which are upward firing. So the back speakers will actually fire the sound up on the roof, and it will get reflected back to give you the kind of an Atmos effect. And the third way which is also there is through soundbar, for example. A simple piece of soundbar will give you a pure Atmos effect sitting at home, and there are few manufacturers who have already launched products with the Dolby Atmos soundbar.
So when you talk about the upward firing speakers and the soundbars, this essentially requires the room to be quite symmetrical, have flat walls, have a flat ceiling, no objects per se. Is that a myth, or is that something that really does help
I think normal rooms which we have in our house are generally good enough, because those are hard walls and do reflect sound pretty well. So even if it is not soundproofed room in that sense, I think it will work well, because the hard walls will definitely reflect the sound much better. So it's not that you have to do a lot of, say, civil work, for example, in bringing it to your home. I think it can generally be done, and if it is a soundbar, it's even better.
Again, coming back to the home is when people, let's say, install a Dolby Atmos enabled home theater in their house, and they have a collection of old Blu-rays or any high quality content that they have purchased over legacy. Will they be able to enjoy Atmos through that, or will they have to purchase new content which specifies that it's Dolby Atmos?
So I think as far as content Blu-ray is concerned, right now there are 150 plus titles which are available in Dolby Atmos. So the old content which was, say, in Dolby other formats will not play in Dolby Atmos, because the film had to be mixed in the Atmos, and the Blu-ray had to be again mixed in Dolby Atmos. So there are right now around 150 plus titles available globally which support the format. As far as local Indian titles, I think there are 17, 18 titles which are now available even from a Bollywood local Indian perspective, which is also available in Dolby Atmos Blu-rays as well.
Okay. Now we've seen a rise in, of course, streaming services, and when you watch things on, let's say, Netflix and Amazon Prime, they do specify if the content is available in HD and surround sound or not. Any ideas for future of Dolby Atmos content coming to these?
Absolutely, in future for sure. Not right now, but I think future definitely. I mean, that's going to be one big growth area for us.
Right. Okay, one more question is Dolby puts out its name with smartphone speakers and stuff, and since Atmos is something that's related to height and depth of surround, how does that apply for a phone which has one or two speakers in it?
Well, so there are two ways to get again the Dolby Atmos effect as far as the smartphones are concerned. One, it could be again just from the phone itself, and there are few phones which do support that and they have been able to successfully demonstrate that. But I think again the good experience is also through the headphones, and you can actually get the same immersive experience listening to the phone if it is in Dolby Atmos. I think Lenovo's few products had that technology initially and they still have it, and I think the experience is pretty good. I mean, if you play the same clip, for example, in a cinema theater, and you try to play the same clip over headphones and with the Dolby Atmos smartphone, I think you do get a good immersive experience in that as well.
So you need to have a pair of headphones.
I mean, generic headphones. I mean, whatever comes, say for example, I mean, you don't need some special headphone for that. Whatever is good enough comes with the box, for example, should be able to play that.
Now that you've understood the technology behind Dolby Atmos, we are going to talk to Jenny from Bass and Treble, who is going to explain to us the certain nitty-gritties that you need to take care of when you are building a theater in your house, how much you will spend on it. Do you really need Dolby Atmos or even a 5.1 setup based on the size of your room, and a whole lot more from people who actually set up theaters for a living. Okay. So thank you for joining us, Jenny, on this episode where we are going to talk about Dolby Atmos in the home. Now our audience already is aware of what Dolby Atmos is. So to begin with, can you tell us what one should consider when putting such a system in the house? Does everyone really need Dolby Atmos?
That's personal. Do you need Dolby Atmos, or are you just okay with a regular 5.1? And some people just have a stereo need, but they still ask for a 5.1. That's something we try and identify while during the demo process here. But if you're someone who's just buying online and not going through that interaction, you just need to see that you have enough space. You have a ceiling where you can put speaker. It's not too high, because your Atmos speaker is going to come on top. Otherwise, it's just a regular 3 in the front, 2 in the surround, and your if you have a false ceiling, you make a cutout. It's really easy. You put a ceiling speaker. If you don't have a false ceiling, then your wall should not be too high. If it's at 10 to 12 feet, you put any speaker on a mount. That's your Atmos setup, basic.
And what is the space that one should have ideally if you talk about a room size? Any specifications that you would like to share, that these dimensions are what is ideal for a 5.1 or a 5.2 setup along with ceiling speakers?
So the most basic kind of Atmos setup, which I just spoke about, 5.1.2, can be done in as small a room as a 14 by 16, 14 by 18. It can be done in your standard living room or even your bedroom. The bigger the room gets, like if you're doing a dedicated theater in your basement area, then you can do a lot more than just the 5.1.2. Then we do we do 2 levels surround, we do 2 pairs of ceiling surround. So that depends on how many levels of seating you have and how big the area is.
Okay. Now, of course, coming to these systems, there are, of course, various price ranges for something like this. So can you talk about how much one is looking to invest when they start, like an entry-level price point, maybe something that you think is a sweet spot for a good system, and top of the line where the sky is the limit? So what are the price points and configurations one is looking at in these cases?
So we don't do theater in a box kind of setup. So I'm discounting that altogether, where you get satellite speakers of the same brand as the amplifier, one box solution. That I'm discounting. If you're doing a decent customized theater, you can start from as low as 1.5 lakh, which includes your 2 bookshelves or towers in the front and a center speaker, then 2 on-wall surrounds, and a pair of ceiling speakers for the top, and a decent 8-inch subwoofer. And your in the most basic model of any amplifier, any brand usually does not have Atmos. You have to go one up or 2 up sometimes. So a entry level Atmos receiver will also start from around 50,000. So you're looking at 1.5 to 2 lakh to start with. Sweet spot, a very good sounding theater which will be better than your commercial theater experience, would require you to spend at least 3 lakh on the amp, and again a 5.1 setup. We are just going up on the quality here and not the quantity. 5.1 plus 2 on the ceiling surround. You need to add another lakh for a projector and a screen of 100 to 120 inches, what a regular room can fit.
Okay, so when you're talking about the projector and the screen, there are a lot of conversations about going 4K now, 4K being the next big thing, and HDR. So would you recommend a good 4K projector, or would it be okay to have a very good full HD projector? How would it make a difference to the consumer? And of course the price of these projectors.
So we mostly sell regular full HD 3D projectors. 3D is quite a thing, yes. 4K not so much, but there are a few, yes. 4K projectors, of course, because of the price, it doesn't sell so much. We are talking about theaters that come in the range of 3 lakh. So obviously a projector up which starts at 8 lakh for a 4K does not make sense in these theaters. But of course we do theaters with budgets like 25 lakh and all, where a projector of 12 lakh and all is also used, which we do 4K. Again, if it was left to us, if a client has a specific requirement for a 4K projector, we put that. But if it was left to us that I'm spending 15 lakh on a projector, we would actually put a non-4K better than your standard projectors full HD one, because it works as well as 4K. It gives you more depth a lot of times. I'm talking about brands like Barco and all. So those good ones start at about 12 lakh, even in a non-4K one. 4K projectors of course start at 8 lakh in Sony and all. Now there's a new BenQ 4K projector at 4 lakh, which can bring 4K to your regular mid-level theaters as well.
Okay. Now speaking of construction, is there any specific construction that is required in the room, let's say to soundproof or put carpets or wooden flooring? There are a lot of jargons thrown around the internet as to what you need to do to have that perfect experience. So what are the few things that you recommend a room should have to get that perfect sound experience?
In our experience, we've seen that most of the systems that we play here on a demo versus when we set it up in a client's house in a regular living room, a lot of the systems actually sound much better in the client's house. That's because we've built this room with keeping one setup in mind. It's very difficult to build a demo room for the varying levels of systems that we have, starting from 1.5 lakh which goes up to 15-20 lakh. So we can't build a room which suits all of these. So we've built one which suits the highest one, and a lot of times these regular speakers tend to get sucked out in that kind of a room, and they sound much better when it's in a regular room with walls and wooden flooring and all. It sounds a lot better. Now when these speakers, the tower speakers, bookshelves, they're all built with enough damping, and they're actually built to not have any acoustic treatment in the room, right? But there are these more professional speakers which do need treatment in the room. So if you feel after setting up your 5.1 or Atmos theater, you feel that there is something wrong, there is the bass is booming or the highs are too sharp, you can do things to fix that, like put a carpet, or just if you have glass in the room, then you put curtains on it. All of this you can do naturally. Also put a book rack at the back wall which acts as a very good absorber. And if none of this works, then you get to professional things like bass traps and absorption panels, which also we don't recommend too much of, because too much absorption isn't good either. You need a little bit of reflection in the room so that that drama is created. But you're looking at, if you do professional treatment, you're looking at spending around 20 to 30,000 in a standard room size like this. But we've usually seen it's not required.
Okay. Now coming back to Dolby Atmos, there are a lot of systems available where the front speakers have a speaker on top which reflects the sound from the ceiling, bounces off. We've also seen some sound bars that are just a sound bar in front, but again it has speakers that fire on top and the sides. So these are of course sold with the fact that they are Dolby Atmos enabled. Have you had any experience with these, and what is your opinion on how they should be placed in the regular house?
So our only Atmos device that we use in our installations is the amplifier. Your processor needs to be Atmos enabled. Everything else, we've not seen any requirement in terms of Atmos speakers. Atmos can assign, of course, surround to various channels more than your traditional 5.1 or 7.1. So as long as you have speakers as many as those which can be assigned, and a processor that can assign these many channels, that's Atmos. We've never used any Atmos speaker.
Yeah,
so this
the
working on reflection thing, even if it's a front speaker that reflects sound to the top, it's subjective to, you know, what kind of ceiling you have, or does it reflect sound back to where you're sitting? Does it reflect back to exactly where you're sitting, or does it throw it somewhere else, because this is all physics. So there's no way you can determine it to the T. So it's best to have physical speakers where you want them to be and where you want sound coming from, than these reflective speakers. Sound bars, again, the same thing applies, because these are sound bars with multiple drivers, and they're all going in various directions. And if it hits the surround wall, side wall, and then comes to you as a surround sound, again, your wall needs to be reflective enough for that sound to bounce off the wall and come to you from the side. If it's not, if you have any other kind of material there, or you have wallpaper, it doesn't work. Even if you paint a certain different kind of paint, it doesn't work. So there are too many specifications. So we generally stay clear of that.
So another thing that is coming to content now is, of course, a lot of people, if they've built a library of Blu-ray movies and now they're upgrading their home theater to have Atmos, will their old content have any kind of upscaling to Atmos, or they will have to rebuild a library of content where Atmos is enabled in the content that they've purchased?
Atmos can't be enabled in the content, I think. But what we have done is, when we watch a regular 5.1 Blu-ray with Atmos on, basically your Atmos speaker works like any other surround, right? So whatever your surround speaker is playing, even your top surround is going to fire the same sound. It's not going to be different. Otherwise, an Atmos recording has different sound coming from top and different sound from your side surround. So in this case, it's the same. It gives you that feel of all enveloping sound, of course. So it's better than your Atmos setup does make your regular 5.1 also sound better in that whole presence, but it does not give you channel separation which comes from an Atmos content only.
Okay. Anything else that you think a customer should keep in mind while they are going out to purchase a home theater? If they're going to invest in this, what would be your top 3 points to consider before going to buy one?
So we do get a lot of customers who sometimes have a need for stereo but come asking for a 5.1 setup because that's the thing to buy. And we have we kind of try and convert them to 2-channel system. Similarly, when there are people who come for theaters, they come for Atmos theater, but with a limited budget. So we tell them to prioritize sound, your quality of your theater over the quantity. So how many speakers you have in the room, all of that is not going to make up for the lack of clarity or quality in the overall system, especially your front speakers. So do not compromise on the front, and do not compromise on your amplifier. If you have a 1.5 lakh rupee budget for a theater, or a 1 lakh rupee theater for a theater, don't do Atmos to start with. You can add Atmos at any time. Most of these systems are customizable. They're not out of a box. Nothing is 5.1 package. So you go, all you need to start off is an amp and 2 speakers and a subwoofer. You can add your center, you can add your surround, and you can add your top surround later on. The important thing is to build a good system, a good sounding system which does not give you a headache at the end of 3 hours, because it's impressive in 5 minutes. Whenever we give a demo, everything's impressive, but whatever does not give us a headache at the end of 3 hours, the whole movie, is what we usually stick with selling. So focus on the sound more than the surround, and that rhymes, but so this you can add as and when you go along, but make sure you're spending more on the front than the surround.
So speaking of content, another thing is, of course, now television, your Tata Sky and Airtel and other DTH providers aren't Atmos enabled. A few of them are 5.1, give you surround sound and stuff. So is it possible to enjoy regular HD television viewing from your set-top box or your streaming services versus Blu-ray content?
So the streaming services are great actually. In the 5.1 sound is also great. Sound is great, picture is great. Even the large screens work really well in homes now for regular TV viewing. It may not compete with Blu-ray in Atmos level, of course, because they're not Atmos yet. But otherwise, in every way, picture, sound-wise, it's all great. But it does not apply to Atmos, of course. As I said, your regular surround will come to your top ceiling as well. So it gives you a all-enveloping kind of experience for TV.
Well, there you have it, guys. That was everything that we could bring to you about Dolby Atmos and how you can set it up in your house, everything that you need to know, and of course the budgets. Of course, starting with $1.5 lakh to 2 lakhs for a system may seem expensive, but that is the price you pay for having a theater in your house, and you don't need to step into a theater ever again. You can always let us know what you thought of this video in the comment section below. If you liked it, you can hit the like button, and for more videos like this one, you can subscribe to our channel. And also, if there is any more technology that you would like to know about, that you think we can talk to the companies, the people behind it, and bring that insight to you, you can let us know as well. We will do our best to get back to you with that. For now, I think I'm going to relax and enjoy a movie in this theater that we've shown you. Until next time. Chair ki awaaz.